So hello and welcome to this video on media management in Drupal. Now, for the next hour or so, I'll show you how to set up the media module in Drupal as well as the media library, and we'll also look at other third-party contrib modules that can help you manage media in Drupal. Now, I've talked about media in the past a lot, and Drupal 7 didn't really have much media management, but since Drupal 8, things have gotten much nicer and the functionality is also pretty powerful. I just need to make sure that the mic and camera is plugged in. All right, it is. Perfect. So before we jump into things, let's talk about what you get out of the box if you just install Drupal 10. So I've got Drupal 10 right here installed. And what we can do is we can go to, say, an article. Now I'm going to focus on just the article content type, and we do have an image field, okay? And if I select one of my files, which I've got here, so let me chuck in one of these ones. No, not that one. Let me chuck in, say, this one. And I will add in this image and we upload it, okay? So this is just stock standard Drupal functionality. And what I've got here is I've got the image uploaded and it is just rendered. Now, if we go to content and then files, here we can see the actual file which has been uploaded. But the problem with this is that we cannot reuse this file. Now, from a Drupal standpoint, this is a file entity. And what happens is when you use an image field directly on a content type, it creates a file entity and then the file entity points to the file. But the problem is, what if we want to reuse this image right here and reuse it over and over again and create some type of library? Now, to actually demonstrate this, I quickly created this mock-up and I was doing this 5 minutes before I was just about to start. So I quickly just wanted to put all this together. I was umming and ahhing about doing it, but I thought, I'll do it. So here's a basic example, okay? We have an article, we have an image field. The image field points to the file, and then the file entity points to the image, okay? That's how things work. Now, if we chuck media in the mix, we would use a media field, which is technically an entity reference field to a media entity. And then on that media entity, we have an image field, which then again points to the file and then directly to the image. So things are slightly different. So all it really is that instead of having an image field directly on your content types, you would have a media field referencing a media, and then this media right here, which is titled image and then media, is your reusable asset. Now, from a Drupal standpoint, this is just a standard entity, same as an article, same as nodes, they're entities. Even a file technically is an entity. But by using the media module, we can create then these reusable assets. And this is where things just become more powerful because you just treat it as another object in Drupal. All right, now we have a few questions. We have a question. Any chance you could set up a schedule on your website and topics and dates about these webinars? Yeah, that's the plan. At this point, I'm just trying out different times because the last two have been on a Sunday night. Well, my time Sunday night. Today is a Thursday. I'm just trying out a few things. Once I come up with a schedule, I'll be more than happy to set things up. There's also another question. I think there's some internet problems, though. I thought it's mine on LinkedIn. I don't know. I use Restream for the streaming service, so I'm not really sure how LinkedIn does it. Maybe there is a bit of buffering. I noticed that, but you can jump on the YouTube channel and yeah, watch it from there. And also this will be posted on the YouTube channel later after the fact. Okay, so let me get back to this. So yeah, that's the current state of files. Okay, files are great, but they can't be reused. Enter media and also the media library module. So if you click on extend and then search for media, you should see two modules, media and media library. Go ahead and install both. Now, chances are you should have media already installed. Well, if you have media already installed, then you shouldn't be watching this live stream. But the media module has been part of Drupal core for a pretty long time now, and it is the de facto way of managing media. And I'm not surprised. Well, and I am surprised it's not even installed by default. Okay, so once you have it installed, you should go to content, and then you should see media right here. If you can't see this tab, then flash your cache. So that's what you want to do. Sometimes, depending how much caching you have, you want to just flush that. But chances are you should see it straight away. Now, to create an asset, we can just click on Add Media, and then here we have 5 different media types. So same as content types. You have your basic page, article, and then you go out and create your content types. Same as vocabularies. So a media is just an entity type that offers bundles, and that's it. And they are fieldable, and you can chuck anything you want on them. Now, they do work a little different. And what I mean by that is that you do have to you do have to select, if you want to create your own media type, you have to download a module which offers a media source. And I'll talk about that in a second. But if we go through these media types, so we have audio, document, image, remote video, and video. The 3 most often that I used are document, image, and also remote video. Of course, remote video is for any embeddable videos. The actual video and audio media type I've never used, because they just allow you to embed audio and video directly in your site, but it also stores it on your site as well. So I have never really used that. Image is heavily used, then remote video, and then probably the third most is document for PDFs. So to upload a file, of course, it depends what you are uploading. So you can see here, audio, you just have an upload field, and this is just a file field. That's it. And then you have the standard revisions, URL aliases, and authoring information. Then documents, again, same thing, file field. Image, you have also image, and then remote video is a little different because you need to chuck in a URL. And then we have video, again, just a file upload. Let me upload a image. So I will come along here. Let me select probably one of these. And I will click on save, and it's gone ahead and uploaded it. We have now a thumbnail of the image right here. The media name is the actual file name. You can specify a media name if you like. You can do that. And then you can go ahead and just edit things as well. Now, if we scroll up and click on files, we will still see the file that we uploaded, because media has an image field on it, and it still creates a file entity, which then points to the file. The only difference is, instead of the image field being on the content type, it is on the media, and then the content type points to the media. So that comes back to here. So we created our media entity, but it still uses the file entity, and then the file entity points to the image file. Now, we haven't looked at the media field. We'll look at that in a second. So yeah, that covers that. Now, when it comes to uploading a actual YouTube video, what we can do is click on add and then click on remote video and click on save. And then here you can see that the remote video has been embedded. Now the media module is smart enough to actually pull out the thumbnail because it's using Embed, and also to grab the title, the YouTube title. And then if we click on here, we can see the actual URL. Okay, so that is how you insert content. Now, I will cover how to insert like bulk update content later on, but let's go to structure and have a look at these media types. So if you go to structure, you will see here media types. Same as content types, same as comment types, everything's a type. I think there's, if you install paragraphs, I think it's called paragraph type as well. So here we have our 5 different types. So we have audio, document, image, remote video, and video. And as I mentioned, if you want to create a media type, you also need to specify a media source, because this media source is a plugin. So it's a bit of code that tells Drupal how to handle the actual file. So it will figure out width and height. If you select image, it'll figure out just logic and also give you extra metadata. And you can see that media source is required. It's actually required. So you can't just create any media type. Now, for the last couple of years that I've used media, I don't think I've ever created an actual custom media type. I've created one for a presentation, but I've never created one to use on a site. I can see a few use cases. For example, if you wanted to embed, say, Instagram or tweets or X's or whatever they're called right now, you would have to create a media type for that and then download the module that gives you the media source. But who knows with APIs? I know that these platforms always lock things down, so I'm not sure if the APIs work. But if you have used media in a fun way, let me know in the comments, because I'm always on the lookout for some interesting ways of using media. I do think, I think I read that, I think the Slick module that gives you a carousel ships with a media type. I could be wrong, but I think it does. And so you can create fancy carousels. So the actual, so you could have a media type called carousel, and you go in there and you just chuck in all your images and you get a carousel. Pretty cool. Now, one of the benefits of this whole media system and media sources and things like that is if you click on, say, remote video, because you will see here the most, all right, you get these options, but then you get this field mapping. This allows you to map metadata that Drupal gets into a custom field. So here we have resource type, resource title. So the reason why we saw the actual YouTube title in name is because it's been mapped across. But what we can also do is map over the owner name, so the actual channel name, into a custom field. So let me show you how to do that. Let's scroll back up and click on Manage Fields. Now, I should mention medias, like a media type is just a fieldable entity. Same as content types. So the way you create fields on a content type is the same way you create them here. So if I click on Create Field, let's create a basic text field and click on Continue. Oh, wait, didn't enter in a label. Let me just enter in channel name, because this UI is a little different. I believe it's in the latest version of Drupal. Click on Save Settings. And then if we click here, Manage Display, let's just make sure channel name is below the URL. So Drupal will show the embedded YouTube video where video URL is displayed. And let's go ahead, go back here, click on media. Oh no, let's go back here, media types. And what we need to do is map it across. So owner goes to channel name. And you can see a lot of options here. If you click on image, for example, you may want to map over width and height. So yeah, let's go back to content, media. And what I'll do is I'll add in another video. And let's select remote video. And you can see channel name here, right down at the bottom, it's empty. Click on save. And then if we edit our channel name, sorry, our media asset, we can see now the actual channel name has been mapped across. If we edit this one, I'm not sure if you'll actually, if we save this one, because yeah, this remote video was created before we did the mapping, but if we click on save, does it actually map it across? Oh, it does. There you go. I didn't think it would, but it does. You can see that it also maps it across. So as you can see, if we come back to media types, there is a lot you can do here by mapping over this metadata into custom fields. Now, before we move on, are there any questions? How are we going with views? Okay, there's a few people watching on YouTube, which is great. All right, just having a quick make sure everything is running and loading. Okay, all right. All right, let's now continue. All right. So we've looked at how to create assets. We've looked at the media types. Now let's look at actually embedding them, because it's only really, well, media assets aren't that useful if you don't embed them somewhere into a page. So right now there are two ways you can embed a media asset, and that is using the media field and also embedding it through the editor using an actual embed button. And we can do that thanks to the media library module, I believe. I think the actual functionality to embed it using CKEditor comes with media library. So let's go ahead and create a media field. And what I'll do is I'll go to content types and I will click on manage fields on basic page. And we'll call this field featured. You can call it featured image, you can call it featured asset, but I'll just call it featured. And then you should see a media field right here. Click on continue. Then from media type, select image and remote video. And then click on save settings. Let's reorder things. So featured is below title, so we can actually see the field. And let's change this so featured is above the actual body. And when I say that, this is the formatter, and click on save. And another thing you want to do is also go back to manage form display and make sure you have media library selected. This will give you the nice media pop-up, which you will see in a second. So if we come along in here and click on basic page, and I'll call this one contact us, we get this nice little add media button. If you click on it, you get this nice little pop-up. You can see image and remote video. That needs to be a little styled, but that can easily be fixed. So now we can switch between image and remote video. And the reason why we can switch between them is because in the reference section on the field, we selected the two types. So if you only want images, well, then you can just check images. And from here, we can upload an image and we can also add in an extra remote image. So if we add in our image, So let's just chuck it in, and body text goes here, and click on save. We now have our embedded image, and it is resized using a particular image style. I don't know which one it is, but whichever one is the default. Now, the other way to embed a media asset is through the editor. So to do that, we need to go to configuration, then text formats and editors, and then you want to configure the main text format that you will be using. Of course, one that's using CKEditor 5. So let's update basic HTML. So click on configure, and you should see this Drupal media button here. If you can't see it, make sure you've installed the modules, and then click and drag it onto the active toolbar. Then scroll down, and you need to enable all the way down here, embed media. Then, if you scroll further down, you want to make sure, if you are using this limit allowed HTML tags, you want to make sure you see this element here. Because when you embed something into the editor, it actually simply embeds this element, which is Drupal-media with all of this information. So you want to make sure that this element is in the allowed HTML. And also take note of this, you'll see here. If used in conjunction with the align/captions filter, make sure this filter is configured to run after them. So right here, I believe, so you want to make sure, probably align images and captions. So these two, you want to make sure that it is run at the bottom. And you will have to probably adjust this. So if you notice things not working 100% correct, you may have to adjust this slightly. Then if we click on embed media, here we can select exactly what media types we want to allow. So let's allow remote video and images. And then you can go one step further and specify specific view modes that you want to be configurable or selectable from the editor. Now, of course, we just have the standard default view mode, so we'll just leave that as it is. But I've worked on sites where you have 3 or 4 different view modes, because you may want to display an image in a sidebar, as a CTA, in a footer, header, and they're all slightly different. So click on Save Configuration. And now if we go to Content and edit our test page, I will remove the featured image. And then what I'll do is I'll just chuck in some text here. And we have our insert button. And again, we get the same pop-up. We can select our image and then embed it in. And then if you click on it, you can align it. Now, depending on the front-end theme you are using, you may have to do a bit of CSS to actually align things. Of course, everything looks perfect from here. But if I save it, let's see if this actually works. Oh, it does. Okay. Yeah, this is the default theme. But what it actually does, if we inspect this, we should see a class. There you go, right here. So you should see, I hope you can see that, but there is a class which is align-right. Now, if you are building a custom Bootstrap theme, a custom Tailwind theme, just make sure you style this in. So your actual alignments can work. But luckily for us, it's working out of the box, which is great. So that is how you can embed assets and show it on the front end. Now, normally on most sites, I allow the ability to embed through the editor because that is a pretty powerful feature. But then I use the media field on paragraphs mostly. That's how I do things. All right. Now, before we move on to more advanced topics, do we have any questions? All right, let's just give that a sec. I think everything's still going well. The stream is still running. All right, cool. All right, let's move on now to some image handling, some advanced topics around image handling. Now, we are going to cover two modules in this video around image handling and image cropping, and that is image widget crop and also focal point. Let's have a look at image widget crop. Let me open up a new tab and paste this in. So the image widget crop, what this allows you to do is that it allows an editor to crop an image directly from the image widget. So when you're editing a media asset, you can crop an image and select which part of the image needs to be cropped. So straight away, you can think of many use cases for that. I've worked on sites where an editor would have to create and specify 12 different crops. And yeah, I think we went a little too overboard with that because we also had crops for different breakpoints. So you can imagine we had I think we had six major image style crops, and then we had 3 breakpoint versions of each image style. So you can imagine how many actual how many crops they wanted to specify, but they wanted absolute control over how the images looked and how they cropped. So let's now set up image widget crop. So scroll down and copy the Composer command. Let me jump into Composer and download it. And it's going to download the crop module, which I think is the crop API, and it's going to just install it. So let's go back into our Drupal site, go to extend, click on, we're on extend, search for image, and let's enable image widget crop. And then click on continue. All right. Now what we need to do is specify a crop type. So go to configuration and then crop types and click on add crop type. And I'll call this one large, and I'll specify an aspect ratio, because what we can do is we can actually lock in an aspect ratio. So a 1:1 is just a square. So a user can only crop the image using this aspect ratio of a square. We can even put in limits for width and height. So a soft limit is the fact that a warning will be displayed. A hard limit means that a user won't be able to go smaller or won't be able to go bigger or smaller depending on it, depending on what has been specified. So you can actually go down. You can actually control a lot of things, but I won't play around with the width and height for now. So I'll click on Save Crop. Now, there is a question about, can we put a media into a paragraph? Yes, you can. Just use the media field. Paragraphs are just entity types, so just chuck on a media field on a paragraph type. Or if you want, you put a long text field on a paragraph type with CKEditor, and you just embed the asset into the editor, which is part of the media type. But it's all done through just a media field. Okay, now that we've created our crop type, what we need to do is go to configuration, and then we need to go into image styles. Now, for people who don't know, an image style is a way that Drupal crops and scales images so that when it's shown on the front end, you can actually specify and say, well, I want images to always be 100 by 100 or 220 by 220 or 16:9 ratio or something like that. And also another good thing about image styles is that you always want to render your image fields through an image style, because editors, in my experience in the past, have uploaded massive 10 meg files. And the last thing you want is to have to debug why all of a sudden on production, a site's taking ages to load up and you realize that they've just uploaded a 10 meg file or something like that. So if you always configure an image style on image fields, it's going to force Drupal to always resize it. And chances are you've adjusted the GD library to, scale the quality a bit so that you save a bit of space. So no matter what, it's going to resize it nicely and just keep things in check. So once we've created our crop type, we need to now add in our crop type into an actual image style. So let's say for this example that we want to use the large 480 by 480 on all of our images. So we edit this one. And what we need to do is select manual crop and select our crop type. And let's just move that above there. We can actually go ahead and remove. Well, now let's keep this one in there, because what's going to happen is Drupal will come along and then apply the manual crop, and then it will scale it to 480 by 480. And you can actually add in a number of effects to kind of adjust things. And so then eventually you get a nice cropped image. Okay, so we have set up the crop type, we've set up the image style. Now we need to configure the actual view, the actual image widget. Now, there are a lot of steps involved. So if this is the first time you're playing with image widget crop, spend a bit of time to get your head around, because sometimes it can be a little confusing. Just remembering, what you need to configure, because you have to configure the crop type, image style, image widget, and then you need to make sure that you've selected the correct image style on your field formatter. So sometimes debugging why things don't work, you're kind of like lost, where do I go? That happens to me a lot. All right, let's go to structure. Then again, I'm trying to think. Media types, edits, and let's go into manage form display. And then we select image widget crop. Then if we click on the cogwheel, we can select our crop type and click on update. Then click on save. Then if we go on manage display, let's just make sure the actual image style that we configured, which is large, has been selected. Because if we select, say, thumbnail, nothing's going to work. So make sure you select the right image style. Then click on save. And now if we go to media and click on, well, actually, let's upload another image, because that image is already square. Where is my image? Let's chuck in this thumbnail, because this is a 16:9 thumbnail. And what we can do now here, if you have a look here, we can resize things, okay? So hopefully you can see that in the video. Yeah, there you can, cool. So we can resize the actual crop area. And because I set the ratio to 1:1, it's going to look like a square. And then we can zoom it all the way down, or we can zoom it all the way up. If we want to reset the crop, we can just reset it. But let's go ahead and just crop this section out, because normally what I do when I actually write my tutorials, I do have a square version of the thumbnail, and also a 16:9 version. All right, so that's been cropped. And now what we need to do is go into our contact us page. Let's remove this. Let's remove this one. Search for our crop. Now, the actual preview or the thumbnail is still just the standard image. Click on insert, and now we can see our actual cropped one. Scroll down, click on save, and now we have our nicely cropped image. So as you can see, there's a lot you can do there. You could actually specify a whole bunch of multiple crop types. Yeah, there is a lot you can do. And this all comes out of the box for free, which is actually pretty powerful. Okay, so we've looked at image widget crop. So that is one of the modules I recommend that you look at. The other one which I recommend is called focal point. Now, why would you want to use one called focal point? Well, let me just copy over the URL. And what focal point allows you to do is that it allows you to tell Drupal where the center of the crop should be, hence the name focal point. Because what can happen is if you have a crop, which is a square crop or a 16:9 widescreen crop, and then somebody uploads a portrait image, well, Drupal's going to crop it from the middle. So if you crop photos of people, you will just get their torso, and you might get half a head or half a legs in the photo. So focal point allows a user to specify where it should crop around it. So in this case, if you wanted to upload a portrait image, you could say, well, you could put the focal point on the head of the person, and then it'll crop around that. So let me show you how to set this up. Scroll down and grab the Composer command. Let's install it. And here, you can see jQuery UI is used. I'm surprised it's actually still used, or maybe it's not. Anyway, it's downloading jQuery UI. So just be aware of that. I know that some people are trying to move away from it, but yeah, just be aware that jQuery UI is there. And if we go back, go to extend, search for, oh no, why am I thinking jQuery? Focal point, and install it. All right, now what we need to do is if we go into structure, media types, and then go to manage form display, we need to switch it to the image focal point. Now, you may be asking, can you use focal point and image widget crop together at the same time? No, you can't, because you need to select a different widget. So let's go ahead and select that. Then here you can specify the preview image style. So let's increase that, because that's actually pretty small. Yeah, let's just leave it at 200 by 200. And let's just leave everything as it is. All right. Now, we aren't done yet. What we now need to do is create our actual image styles for focal point. So if we go to configuration, image styles, let's add in a image style, and I'll call this one focal 480 by 480. And then you have two effects options. So focal point crop and focal point scale and crop. Let's select scale and crop, but just adjust accordingly. Sometimes you may want to crop it. Sometimes you may want to scale and crop it. So I'll just chuck that one in. So this will be 480 by 480. And let's go back here, create another one called focal, and this one will be 220, but let's not make it a square and make it 220 by 150. And again, chuck in a focal point scale and crop, 220 by 150. And click on save. All right. So now if we go to our media, and let's edit this one, we should see a different UI because it is now the focal image widget. And we get this little handle, so we can specify where the focal point should happen. So where Drupal should crop around. If we move it to the left-hand side and then click on preview, we can then see different previews of it. So you can see here down at the bottom, we have the original. Then we have our 220 by 150. You can see that, yep, we get some of the image on the right, but then here, the 480 by 480, which is a ratio of 1:1, which is a square, it just gives us that size as well. Let's close this. We can still move it around and say, actually, I want it to be on this side. And then we go click on preview, and then we can see that it's also been moved around. Now, the good thing about this is that if we now save it, we can just embed now this image, but we need to select the correct view mode. The correct image style on the view mode. So let's go back to structure, media types, because if we have a look at our page, this is still going to show the older version, even if we refresh. And the reason for that is because it is using a different image style. So what we need to do is come back in here and select and actually decide which image style to use at this point. Now, we only have one, we're only using the default view mode. So of course we need to choose one, but on a proper Drupal site, you would have a view mode for every single image style that you have. So in this case, if we select for the focal point 480 by 480, and then we come and refresh, we should see the 480 by 481. If we come back here and select 220 by 150 and refresh, we should see the other version of it, which is the 220 by 150 version. Okay, so that is the two modules which I wanted to show you in regards to image handling. Now, I've used these modules for a very long time. They're pretty stable, haven't had any problems with it. The only thing to be aware of is that if you do change the image style on a page that has been cached, and also which means the assets have been cached, there's a good chance you're going to deal with caching problems. Now, this isn't a problem with Drupal per se. It's just the nature of websites and using a reverse proxy. So if you have Drupal behind, say, Varnish or CloudFront or any type of CDN, there's a good chance that, especially for images, that the cache lifetime on images is pretty high. It can be sometimes up to 6 months or something. So if you go in there and change the image style, which will then resize the image, you may not see those changes straight away on the website. You may have to clear the cache. You may have to do some funny stuff. Now, I deal with caching problems on a weekly basis, and it's always been like that. And that's just websites in general. So that's just something to be aware of. So if you get contacted by an editor saying, I have changed the image style and it's not appearing on the website, why isn't it? This is a good chance it's just cached, and that's it. And you need to figure out why it's getting cached or what you can do. Sometimes you just bite the bullet and flush the CloudFront cache, but then you need to pay for that. So yeah, just be aware of that. All right. Now, the next module I want to show you is called media bulk upload, because one of the first requests I ever got, and I'm sure you'll get as well, is can we bulk upload images or bulk upload files? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can in Drupal, and it actually works very well. So the module that I recommend is called media bulk upload. And what this module does is that it uses DropzoneJS, which is a JavaScript library that allows you to drag and drop items into an area and it just uploads it out of the box. So let's go ahead and download this module. So let me go into Composer, download it. And what's going to happen is we're going to go to extend. I think we type in bulk. And even though DropzoneJS is not a required module, it is technically required to use the upload functionality, because if you don't, you do get an error. So there is a bug that I found that if you just install media bulk upload, you will get just an error saying cannot upload files or something like that. So I do recommend that, yeah, just install both and that's it. And then click on install. And then what you need to do is you need to add in a library into your Drupal site, so a JavaScript library. Now, there's a few ways you can do this. If you go to DropzoneJS, you can add it in through Composer. You can manually download it and then just chuck it into your libraries directory. I've gone ahead and added it in manually. So you can see here, web, libraries, Dropzone, dist, min, and then it just gives you the DropzoneJS files. And I do believe that if the module cannot find the actual library, the folder in libraries, it is going to complain and chuck up an error message. All right, so let's go back into here, and we've installed it. Now what we need to do, before we do anything, let's go to content, add content. Now there should be an actual bulk upload button here. What you need to do is clear the cache, because sometimes things get cached in Drupal. So if we clear it, there we go, upload media in bulk. If we click on it, it'll tell us that we need a media bulk config which hasn't been set up. All right, let's go back to configuration, and there should be a media bulk upload. There we go. Then click on add bulk configuration, select the media type. So I'll upload images, and I'll call this one bulk image upload, and then click on save. Just leave everything as it is. And now if we come back here, we should see, here we go, a nice little upload area. But I'm curious, let's actually change this. Well, let's leave it image upload for now. And let's select document as well. I have not tested this out, so I don't like to do this on the fly while everything's live. If we refresh, there we go. All right, so please be aware that file extensions overlap. Do they? Between media. It's saying no, but document type, there's only one GIF. So I guess it figures it out. It figures out the extension and then it assigns the correct file to the correct media type. Anyway, let's give this a go. It's always good to do this straight away without testing it. So let's upload a few of these images. So these are PNGs, and also I'll chuck in a PDF as well. There we go. Image, image, image. Then we have a PDF. Submit. Perfect. Uploaded that easily. Then if we go to content and media, we have our PDF, which is a document type. Now we can't see an actual preview of the PDF because Drupal's not equipped to take a photo or a screenshot of the first image and then display that as a thumbnail. What you could do is you could create an actual thumbnail field on the media type and then just use that as a thumbnail. And then here we have our media assets. Perfect. So there you have it. If you get the request to bulk upload images, or if you get the request to adding the ability to bulk upload PDFs, well, yep, Drupal can do it. Perfect. All right, before we move on to the last part, any other questions? No? All right, cool. All right. So the final module I want to show you is called FitVids. So let me show you this module. What this is, so FitVids, I'll say that 10 times, is a JavaScript, I think it's a jQuery library that just that makes iframes responsive. So anything like an embeddable video responsive. Because if we actually embed a YouTube video, and I kept this to last because I wanted to show it all with this FitVids. So let's go ahead and embed a YouTube video. All right. Go along in here. And I'll embed the web form one. You can see that it's pretty small. And then if we click on save, then if we come along in here, you can see that, yep, it is pretty small, okay? If we go to the media type, click on remote video, manage display. The actual formatter used to embed the video is called embed content. And we can adjust the width and height. So if we put in, say, 480 by 480 and refresh, like, yeah, it's a bit better, but it doesn't resize it. That's the thing. So let's go ahead here. Yeah, it doesn't resize it nicely. Well, it kind of does, but you can still see the aspect ratio is a bit off, and yeah, it's not a nice experience. All right. Let's switch this back to 0, 0, because what we're going to do is we're going to get FitVids to handle the resizing. All right, so let's copy the composer command and paste it in. Give that a second. And let's go back to our Drupal site. Let me close a bunch of these. Go to extend, search for FitVids, and click on install. And we should, out of the box, it should just work. Famous last words. Scroll down, there we go. So now it's a proper aspect ratio. And if we resize it, let me just close this, you'll see that it actually resizes nicely. Now, the way it actually works, so this is something to be aware of, is that if we go into the configuration and then you go down to media and then FitVids, you will see that you do have an option to specify a video containers. So the actual JavaScript selector will search for any iframes within this container. So any div that has the node class. So you may want to adjust this a bit more if you are going to display YouTube videos in a block or on the right hand side, because this node class is used here. So if we have a quick look, so where is that? Up. There we go. It's right there. So you can see, hopefully you can see that in the video. It is right there. So node is there. Because if we do remove this, oh no, one is required. Okay. Let me chuck in node test. If we remove that and then refresh, still going to work. Oh, how is that still working? Oh, maybe it's test. No, it's still doing its magic. Maybe we need to clear the cache. Maybe there's a bit of extra magic in there to make sure. Oh, there we go. Clear your cache. Always. So now that we remove that container, you can see now it's, yeah, The actual embedded video is now really small. But if we do pop this back into .node, and as usual, have to clear the cache, then come back here and refresh, it's going to work. And there you go. All right, so that is pretty much it for this video. Please chuck in your comments. I mean, if you have any questions now for anyone watching it live, please chuck in your comments before I finish up. If you are watching this after the fact and you do have some pretty cool use cases for media in Drupal that you want to share, please add in a comment. Or if there are any other modules that work well with the media module and media library, please do chuck them in. I'm always on the lookout for new modules. So I'm always happy to learn about new things. So before we finish up, any other questions? So how are we going with time? All right, just over an hour. Good. It's not too late because yeah, it's late, like my time. All right, let's just leave it at that. All right, thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more about Drupal, just head over to webwash.net. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment and I'll do my best to answer them. Anyway, that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.